Welcome to a guide on modding primary weapons in Warframe. I would like to point out that this may not necessarily be new player friendly but rather is a video to understand how and why you should mod primary weapons. The understanding behind it and what to do and what not to do. This will help new players as well, but they might not have all the mods I will be talking about, so keep that in mind. This is more towards casual players who do not yet have a proper understanding of weapon modding. Now with that out of the way, this video will cover the modding of 3 primary weapons. First we will look at a crit-based rifle, status-based shotgun, and finally a sniper rifle, specifically because many new players got their hands on a free Vectis Prime through Twitch Prime. Now this may be a long video, so sit tight and enjoy. Let's start out with the standard rifle. This class includes assault rifles, beam weapons, bows, etc. Basically any primary that is not a shotgun or a sniper rifle. I will use the example of my Soma Prime. First I will explain the stats, as we use this to pick our mods for the weapon. Therefore it is very important you understand it to some extent. You can see above the stats it specifies the mod capacity of the weapon. A weapon has 30 capacity when it is at max rank. This can be doubled by using an Orokin catalyst on the weapon. You can get this from the alerts after a dev stream takes place. These alerts are called Gift of the Lotus alerts, or from sorties as well. To make a proper build we need to install a catalyst. However, if you are just starting out, there is no need for it for now. The first stat is accuracy, which obviously states how accurate a weapon is. This stat mainly affects the mod called Heavy Caliber, which is a mod that increases damage and decreases accuracy. Therefore, for weapons that are very accurate or beam-based weapons, Heavy Caliber is good. But for sniper rifles or most rifles it is not a very good mod. The second stat is critical chance. This stat specifies the chance of landing a critical hit whose multiplier is specified by the critical multiplier. Weapons with a 20% or higher critical chance and 2 times or higher multiplier are worth modding for crit. As you can see, the Soma has great crit stats and thus we will most definitely mod for crit. Fire rate indicates how fast you fire, and the Soma has a high fire rate. Skipping these obvious stats, let's talk about the most complicated stat. Status chance. Status chance indicates the chance of a single projectile to proc a status effect. This status effect will depend on what damage types you have modded on your weapon. For instance, if I mod for toxin damage, then I can proc toxins proc when the status chance applies. Now most weapons have their base damage as the 3 physical damage types: impact, puncture, and slash. Their values represent the damage each of them do and also represent their priority to proc their status when status chance applies. Here you can see slash has the highest value. This means majority of the base damage of the Soma is slash, which is good against infested, and also means that when a status occurs from status chance, there is a higher chance it will be a slash proc, which is bleed. Keep in mind the bleed damage is not affected by the slash value here but rather affected by total damage of the weapon. The high slash only means it has a higher chance of applying compared to impact and puncture. Now that is out of the way, let's start modding. The first mod that must always be put on a weapon is flat damage. The flat damage mod for rifles, or rather any primary weapon that isn't a shotgun, is called Serration. This mod gives a flat boost to our total damage. Keep in mind to always put this mod first, as it is the most important mod. Next we need to identify what type of weapon the Soma is. Obviously its crit stats are one of the best in the game, being well above 20% and 2 times multiplier. Hence let's mod for crit. We can increase critical chance by using the mod called Point Strike. This will boost out critical chance by a significant amount as our base crit chance is high. Next we add Vital Sense to boost our critical damage. Thus you can see that if a weapon has great crit stats, Vital Sense and Point Strike will be far more effective as they are multiplicative bonuses. After modding for the primary strength of a weapon, we look into a factor known as Multishot. Currently in Warframe this is the most powerful stat on a weapon after the flat damage. Multishot mods, as you can see, provide a +% multishot. And when we put it in, it increases our damage. This might confuse some players. Basically the percent on the mod is the percent chance to fire a second projectile with a single shot. So if I add split chamber, that means I have a 90% chance with each shot I fire to fire a second projectile along with it. Pretty simple, right? Now you might ask, then why does it increase the damage of the weapon? This is because this damage now represents apparent damage of the weapon. What this means is that since we have a 90% chance to fire a second bullet, we almost always deal double damage. You can understand this by looking at the damage increase. It increases by almost double its amount. 1.2 times 2 is 2.4, but here is at 2.3 as we have 90% multi-shot rather than 100% multi-shot. Now if this was confusing, all you need to know is that multi-shot makes you fire more bullets, making it very powerful and should be present on each and every weapon just like flat damage. The multi-shot mod for rifles is called split chamber and I will add it. Now we have the mandatory mods and crit mods, as Soma is a crit weapon. I will now mod for elemental damage. This is where many new players make mistakes, and I've made this mistake in the past as well. Just because a weapon is a crit weapon doesn't mean that you only mod for crit stats and leave it at that. After modding for crit, you should always make an elemental combo. You might ask why. Well, that is because elemental combos have a damage bonus against specific factions and also they add more damage to every bullet, so why not? It will further increase base damage and thus complement our great crit stats. Now I will explain how elemental damage works, as by far this is the most mistaken topic when it comes to new players. When you add an element such as adding electricity, you can see it provides some electricity damage. What this means is every shot I fire will have 53 more damage and will be in the form of electricity damage. Now this has nothing to do with the electricity status proc. However, as I mentioned before, greater this electricity value, greater the chance of the shock effect of electricity crossing when a status occurs through status chance. The physical damage types have a 4 times higher chance of crossing compared to elemental damage, so if you really want to proc electricity you need to increase it even further. My point is, when you add an element, it adds damage of that element to the weapon, which applies to every hit. However, the stat proc of the element, that is the stun from electricity, has a chance of crossing when the status occurs. Now with that out of the way, let's make the most ideal elemental combo, which is corrosive. Corrosive damage is currently the most used and reliable element. This is because of 2 things. First, its damage effectiveness. And second, its status proc. Corrosive damage gains a massive 75% bonus against ferrite armor, which is the main armor the Grineer posses, making it absolutely devastating against most Grineer. It also has a neutral modifier against other factions with the sole exception of Protest shields, which is irrelevant to us. And to top it, its status proc called Corrosion permanently reduces 25% of the enemy's current armor, which makes it good against all armored units. Not just Grineer with ferrite armor, but against all armored units. Thus, to make corrosive we combine electricity and toxin. Now we have 2 options. We can go for the plus 90% mods, which offer higher damage, or the plus 60% mods that provide good status chance and lower damage. Now this depends on the weapon. You need to take into account how fast the weapon fires, how high its status chance is, and how high its damage output is. For a high status chance weapon, it is advisable to go for the 60/60 mods. However, for high damage weapons, the 90 mods prove to work better. Now the Soma has low status chance. However, it fires very fast, thus we will still proc a lot of status with a decent status chance. Thus the 60/60 mods prove to be better for the Soma. The mods are High Voltage and Malignant Force for rifles. Finally, we will add Vigilante Armaments for more multi-shot and also the Crit Enhance. This is good as we fire very fast anyways with a good crit chance. This covers the modding of the weapon. The final slot is for you to fill in with whatever you find effective. The Soma already fires very fast, thus boosting its fire rate and adding some punch through with Shred is a good choice. Or you can go for more damage with the 90 mods to further increase our corrosive. This covers the building ideas for rifles. Now for a quick look at modding a shotgun. Shotguns generally have a very high status chance. Thus the 60/60 mods are the best to opt for. And you can follow with 90 mods if you want more damage. Now shotguns which have a 30% or higher status chance has the potential to reach a true 100% status chance with every single pellet crossing a different status. Thus throwing all 60/60 mods is advisable for such weapons. And finally, for sniper rifles. They fire very slowly. Thus it's better that we do not try to proc status at all, and all we want to do is deal the maximum damage possible. Thus only 90 mods are advisable to all sniper rifles in the game. Other factors such as crit, multi-shot and damage apply the same way to all primary weapons. Thank you for watching, and if you have any doubts or questions, please leave a comment below. Bye.